Hi, good evening, folks. It's Sunday. Well, thank you for those of you who have put comments on my videos. Mostly, if not all of them, actually, are pretty supportive, and I thank you for that. It's often nice to read, and I do take on board what people say. And thankfully, I don't think I've offended too many people in my videos that seem to comment. The people I've offended probably do just click off, as they say, and don't bother leaving too much. They don't. They just go. I mean, if I'm offended by a video, I just click off. That's all. And that's what grown-ups do. They go, hey ho, entitled to your opinion. Click. Who's next? Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? It's only the narrow-minded, silly little people that want to make a big thing out of it, and that's why I was so angry at YouTube's interference on people's videos. I think there's just too much of this nonsense going on. I mean, I have a friend who lives in the States, and he's finding it incredibly hard now to live because he told me about the things they have to have permits for. I mean, if it carries on getting worse in America, of course, this dictatorial fascist dictatorship, this socialized state of America, and yes, some people do call it the United States of America, but it's not about the Jews. We know this. Not really. The Zionist state of Israel, of America, sorry. Yes, Freudian slip, maybe. But he told me, my friend, that you need a permit for everything. Really, if he wants to go to a lake and fish, he needs a permit. If he takes a dog for a walk, if he got a permit. Have you got a permit for that dog? Why isn't it? You know, everything. You're so paranoid about making sure you've got the right permit, the right bit of paper. The papers, it reminds you of the Nazis. Papers, please. You know, and you get all sorts of arguments with these jobsworths asking for permits. And I did feel sorry for him. It hasn't quite got to that stage yet in the United Kingdom, but I'm sure it will. But I watched an interesting video last night from David Irving. It was quite an old video. And some of you will recall the business about this policewoman who was shot outside the Iranian embassy some time back now, when coppers never used to carry guns around in London, of course. There were happy days. And there was a policewoman was shot in the back, and they sent the Iranian diplomats back in disgrace, didn't they, back to Iran. And it was all covered up that it was actually the Syrians that actually did that, not the Iranians, but the Iranians were blamed. And they could prove it if you looked at the point of entry of this bullet in this unfortunate policewoman's body. Look at the angle of penetration and exit. It was a 9mm. It went straight through her. And it was shot, and that particular bullet ended up going through a window of an office block. And the investigator, David Irving actually it was, he wanted to go and get access to the window that had a bullet hole in it so he could check the angle of entry to prove that it in no way could have come from the Iranian embassy. None. And that was disallowed, in fact. Also, the coroner's report during the policewoman's coroner's report, the verdict, etc., was being read out, and the coroner wasn't allowed to talk about the entry and exit wound of the bullet hole through this unfortunate policewoman's body. And you could smell a rat. The moment they start saying you're not allowed to discuss the finer details of the bullet's entry-exit wounds and the angle to prove a point, it is no way was the Iranians that shot that policewoman. I mean, you know, there was no need. There was no justification in doing so from the Iranians. It was a Syrian job. It just shows you the power of the press, though, and the way people can be stitched up by the governmental services. And exactly the same thing is happening in South Africa, isn't it? What's all this about going on with all the white people, all the white farmers being kicked out by the blacks in South Africa? Well, that will cause the whole of South Africa to become chaos, because eventually you see this, who's going to run South Africa? Who's going to feed South Africa, because there won't be any crops, because none of the black farmers know how to farm. And this is exactly what happened in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, isn't it? When they got rid of all the farmers, do you remember? And then, yes, you know, Zimbabwe / Rhodesia had to be fed by emergency services to stop the local people starving to death, because they kicked out all the farmers out of Rhodesia and they starved themselves to death. It was their own fault. They shot the hand that feeds them, quite literally. And the same is happening in Africa. But is it the black people that are doing this? Who's initiated this stirring the beehive? It's like sticking a stick into a wasp nest and shaking it around, saying, get the whites out, come on lads, get the whites out, let the blacks run the country, yeah! And they get rid of all the white farmers by rape and pillage and taking their land and goodies, and the farmers can't get out there quick enough, having lost a lifetime's work. It begs the question, who's behind all this in South Africa, doesn't it? Because it's not the blacks. It was not a black initiative. And if it was a black initiative, those blacks that are initiating this in South Africa are on the payroll of something very big. And we know who they are. It is Russia. Because they want, there's three minerals that are only available in the land of South Africa, folks, that aren't available anywhere else in the world at sufficient quantity. Okay. Absolutely. And South Africa happens to have these in abundance. They have 85% of the world's supply, and you simply cannot get these three particular minerals out of any other landmass. Of course, the second one, yes, the second country that is under threat, of course, is Palestine, isn't it? With their Golan Heights, because the Golan Heights equally harbours rare minerals. And who are taking over there? The Chinese. Chinese are pulling out all the minerals out of the Golan Heights. Well, Israel wants the Golan Heights and they won't give them up, yet they have no claim to the Golan Heights, do they, at all? But Israel controls those. You see, Henry Kissinger strikes again, doesn't he? It's a little bit like, you know, control the money, you control the people, you control the food. That's what you do. And then you also control the mineral rights. Because without these rare earth minerals, they're using catalytic converters, in Golan Heights particularly, and the other minerals in South Africa, one of them being chromium. There's no steel. See, if you can control the steel production of a country, you can bring it to its knees. And America is big on steel production, and they need chrome. Oh boy, do they need chrome. So, It's all about that, isn't it? It's all about the land masses. It's not about the people, folks. It really isn't. It's about the land and what the land has within it, not upon it. It's not always about the people. It's all about what's under the ground, not what's on it. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Because these people, these 1%ers, the oligarchs, as I said before, they don't care about people. Okay, they care about the land and what's under it and what the land is worth. And most of America's lost its farms and its ability and the topsoils have all been boxed up and sent abroad because that's where historically the minerals are that are useful for farmers for their seeds. But hey ho, Monsanto's seeds don't need any nutrients because they all come in one little packet. You could grow them all on blotting paper quite successfully, but that means that people eat the Monsanto food and there's no nutrients in it, it's just chemicals. Who needs topsoil when you've got Monsanto, eh? So it is the Russians and the Chinese and the Zionist banksters that are funding such things, trust me. It's all about the money. It's never going to be about the people. So why do governments claim so much credit for caring about the populace? Because they don't. We are temporary, after all. 70 years and 10, if you're lucky. Well, lucky. And it does make you laugh, doesn't it? Ha, bloody ha. So, every time now the cynic in me looks at who is to benefit, this is what I've got to say in my life, is it take away the shock factor and the way it's all engineered. Who benefits from Libya going down the toilet, Syria going down the toilet, Afghanistan going down the toilet, Iraq going down the toilet, soon to be Iran going down the toilet? Who benefits? There's only one country that is truly, truly, truly going to benefit from all of that going down the toilet. And we know that state, it's not a country. Yes. So, it will happen, but maybe not in my lunchtime. But it's sure as egg's going to happen. I wouldn't be buying real estate in Iran anytime soon. Excuse me. But it's very difficult to choose a topic now that I could talk about without it being polluted by this word, Zionists, oligarchs, and being cynical. I could talk about all sorts of bullshit. The pop industry, Hollywood, music industry, the sports. Why we waste time as human beings watching football. You know, the FA Cup final, the World Cup final. Why should I get excited about 22 men in dire need of rest being watched by millions in dire need of exercise? What's the point? You see, there's very little point, is there, when you sit down and analyse what is the reason we're here? Why am I here? Why was I born? Was I born just to be a serf? Don't we have any bigger ambitions than this? Everybody says you've got to get a job. It's like meeting a beach bum. And you're going there and you're once a year, 2 weeks, you're on the beach in Bahamas and you meet a beach bum. And you worked hard to get there and be wealthy and go on to these exotic holidays. And you travel a long way, paying thousands of pounds to go on this holiday with your family. And you bump into a beach bum who's never lifted a finger all of his life. Got there on other people's efforts. Yes. And you're having a drink and he has a drink. Good day, he'll say. How you doing? All right. And you're thinking, and what you really want to say is, why don't you get a job? What do you do for a living? I don't, man, I just cruise around. Why don't you get a job? What do I want a job for? And you'll probably say, because then you'll have some self-respect and you'll be able to earn money. What do I need to have a job for? I don't need the money. He says, well, well, you might say, if you've got the money, you can travel to exotic places like this. He says, I'm here already, man. Yeah? He's got there on other people, hasn't he? He's got there with no efforts. See, he's got the same as you, but he hasn't worked for it. And that's the unjust thing. That is the thing that sickens you. That many people work hard for what they've got. There's nothing wrong with work. That's what we're designed to do. Otherwise we'd be very bored. Isn't it? It's like you look forward to 2 weeks off and then you get the 2 weeks off and the third day into it you're bored. I'm like this when I go on holiday. I can't just lie on a beach and read a book. It would drive me insane. I can read a book at home, thanks. I can get the sun at home in the summer. I may as well be in my garden. You see, my wife would rather sunbathe than read a book. Me, I cannot stand the thought of lying there on the beach, putting sun cream on my puffy white flesh, getting burnt, paying a fortune for the privilege when I could be having the same effect at my house at home in the garden, in summer in Britain. And yet we have to travel to these places to say we've been on holiday, which is stressful enough getting there with the airlines and the baggage and all the other crap that we have to, the hoops we have to jump through, with being x-rayed and frisked by a bunch of PDs, and watch your children being exposed to such, the home care security, whatever they're called, putting their rubber gloves on, retinal scanners, x-rays, take your shoes off, take your belt off. Oh no, beam me up, Scotty. We are just messed around from pillar to post, aren't we? When we know that the overall agenda really is for the rich to get richer and the poor get poorer. And I often look back into history and I think, what was life like for Robin Hood and his merry men? Were they merry? It was bloody cold in those forests at night. But I tell you, I often hanker. I often wonder who's got the better deal, them or me. See, they could get up when they want, do what they want, live without interruption. This is an ideal world, isn't it? Being able to do that, like Grizzly Adams. Yeah. Yeah, you've got to take the rough from the smooth. If you're poorly, you're not surrounded by doctors. Well, you know, don't get poorly. Live a healthy lifestyle. But there isn't a person on this planet that doesn't go through their life without having difficulties. But most of the difficulties we seem to encounter in our lives are thrust upon us by others with an agenda. We've got to comply, we've got to conform. Have you got the right documents? Have you got the visas? Have you got the pass? Ooh, you haven't. Well, you can't do it then, I'm sorry. There's rules. There used to be a saying in the armed forces, rules are for the obedience of fools, but the guidance of wise people. That's why wise people can break the rules, you see. Rules are for the obedience of idiots, but for the guidance of wise men. Well, of course, and that's why they get away with, don't they? The rich and famous and oligarch types get away with bending the rules. If they get caught bending the rules, they'll get a small fine. It's worth every penny. I think if they get caught acting illegal, they should be stripped of their wealth in its entirety. That would soon take the smile off their lawyers' faces, wouldn't it? You see, it should be a level playing field, but it isn't. Life's not like that, is it? And this is what I'm saying. I'm often accused of being a neghead. Negative. There's nothing positive about this. I can't see any light on the horizon. I can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And in Jordan Maxwell's non-unique words, the light at the end of the tunnel isn't the light of recovery. It's an express train coming our way. And we just got thousands and thousands, well, millions and millions of idiots who just want to party, shirk responsibility, accept the shit education and shit medical system, and just accept it all and move on and stop moaning. Don't be a complainer. But if we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything, and we seem to be falling for anything. We know that history is written by those who want to, well, it's written by the victors, quite frankly, that it's nothing to do with the truth. You only have to look at the real history of World War I, World War II, and realise that Churchill, for example, was a complete drunken, bum, lying, bastard, Zionist pig. Winston Churchill self-aggrandizing, and he could have stopped the war in 1940. But no, by doing that, of course, well, he secured himself a job. If he'd stopped the war when Britain lost the war in 1940, quite frankly, we could have said, well, Hitler said he's let us off the hook if we just forget it now and let Poland go to the dogs. And Churchill originally wanted to do that and save us going to war. But then he went down and thought about it when he was in his bunker. Prime Minister Churchill thought, well, if I acquiesce to Hitler's demands, I'll be out of a job. No, we will fight him on the beaches. But now we'll just tell Hitler to sod off. We're not going to agree. We'll just carry on regardless. And Britain at that time was bankrupt. But it's amazing how they found the money practically overnight. Where did they find the money? Where did the United Kingdom find the money to continue the war and do that to Hitler's offer of peace? Hitler had no truckle designs on Great Britain, folks. He was interested in Poland and that side of the water. He wasn't contemplating a war with Britain. We only got involved with it because of bloody Poland. Had Churchill sacrificed Poland, which was practically non-existent in 1940 after the Germans had finished with it anyway, how many people's lives would have been saved? But no, Churchill, being selfish little fat shit alcoholic bastard that he was in debt. In debt. And he had to pay that debt back. And the only way he could pay that debt back to his Jewish friend, might I add, who bailed him out the shit, well, he had to keep that job as Prime Minister. And he pushed us and continued, and we got the money to continue. We borrowed the money, didn't we? Millions and millions and millions of pounds, and sent millions of people to their certain death. And we all think Churchill's a hero, this little fat, balding, alcoholic pissant who was nothing more than a second-rate art frauder. Broke at the time, in the process of losing his house, his family home, And now look at him, he's got a statue in London, the city of London, here, that big fat cigar, this fat slob. Yes. And he was very, very pro-Zionist, because it was the Zionists that stopped him becoming utterly bankrupt and destitute. And he sold us down the Swanee to these people, folks, the Bank of England. Our idea of what history is skewed and is certainly not taught at school. This is why David Irving, who I'm a big admirer of, by the way, tells the truth, because he's got no agenda at all apart from expose the lies that are said to the people about history. And the worry is, of course, history repeats itself. And boy, isn't it just repeating itself. Nothing changes, you see. It's just a land grab for the mineral rights and who control the mineral rights. That's all it is, and the human beings on this planet mean nothing to these bastards. You just carry on doing your work and just mind your own business. It doesn't concern you. You're so far down the pecking order. Just may as well just forget it all and just carry on regardless. And leave them to raping the world and destroying our children's future. Well, I can acquiesce to that because, quite frankly, my dear, there's nothing we can do about any of this. It's bad enough having Brexit stole from in front of our very eyes by such manoeuvrings of our snakes as politicians. It's our own fault, because we didn't drive onto the motorways of this country when we learnt of all the shenanigans going on, and stopped and got our pasting tables out and had a cup of tea and brought this country to its knees. 17 and a bit million people. If they'd done that and got off their arse and gone and done this, maybe Theresa May would be hanging like the idiot Mussolini, upside down with her Brexit sign up her ass. No, what are we going to do? I'm bloody sure we're going to have another referendum and then we're going to lose it. And we're stuck with these bloody Europeans. Because that's been the plan all along. And what are the 17 million Brexiteers doing? Oh well, we tried. We just accept it, don't we? Well, we deserve all we get. I have no sympathy, and quite frankly, whether we Brexit or not, personally for me, doesn't pay my gas bill one way or the other. It makes no odds to me whether we're in Europe or the European Union or not. It only matters to those who have stacks of cash and invest abroad. Isn't that practically every politician in the country? Every member of the House of Lords have got little side deals going on with their European friendly poos. It's a stunning joke, isn't it? You talk about democracy at its finest. No. The overall agenda, and I've said before, is a new dawn on the horizon. Yes, the sunrise between the mountains, just like on the Communist Manifesto. It's in all the publications, this little logo. And the shorthand of the logo is a triangle with a circle in the middle. Well, if you look at the Queen and the King, and behind them, on their little seats that they sit in during coronation, you will see a triangle and a circle in the middle. That is a new dawn rising. Because the bastards sat in their chairs know what's coming. It's a long-term agenda. And there isn't one of these elites that isn't looking forward to the new dawn rising in a socialist dictatorship where a few will control the many. And that's been the plan all along. It might have been 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But every day in every way, nibble, 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 they get towards their goal. And they are that far away. And us idiots on the farm, the goyim, okay then. Oh well, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay. Duh. Back to work. We're like the antelope, the Serengeti, the zebras. I'm eating around, eating, and we're too busy. We've got to head down, these things with antlers. And all the time, we hear something. We stop. We look out. And you're worried about your little baby. I could swear I heard something creeping up on us. Nah, don't be silly. Nah. Okay. And you put your head down again and you... I'm telling you, Liz, I heard something. There's something creeping up. Watch out for those tigers. And nah, don't be so stupid. It wouldn't be so blatant. And then, wham. You see, that's the way it is. They do it in the dark. They do it when you're not looking. They do it in such a sneaky way, these shysters. But we're too stupid. We truly are animals on the farm. It's our own fault we are so stupid. I despair when I meet a lot of people. I think, I'm reasonably intelligent. I don't think I'm a complete nerd. I have my moments, apparently. But the truth is, I find life pretty hard sometimes. I have 1,000,001 balls to juggle. The gas, the poll tax, the electric, the food, the home insurance, the life insurance, yada, 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 yada. They come in from all angles, unexpected. And I'm thinking, it's a jungle out there, man. I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to organise my own business. I'm trying to do my own thing. I'm busy. I'm busy trying to make a living. And I find it hard. I'm tired all the time. I'm physically wrecked half the time. I spend my life catnapping. I have good days and bad days like everybody else. And on top of that, I don't get paid if I have a day off because I'm not employed. I work for myself. And it's hard. It is. And even if I had a job, I'd have to get to work. I'd have to kiss ass to the boss, probably hate the bastard. I'm doing a job I don't really want to do. Life is hard. And that's me. And I'm reasonably intelligent. But then I look at other people who are way down the evolution scale, in my opinion. I think, how do they survive? But they seem to, don't they? How do they do it? Do you know the truth? The truth is they don't have any responsibilities. Nada. They make the best of what they've got and have no expectations. You see, the only time you're ever going to be happy, folks, in life is to stop wanting things. Stop being so materialistic. Stop planning. You've got no right to plan for a future. How very dare you think you've even got a future? Your future you should be looking forward to is the dawning of the new day. Don't be so concerned with yourself. Concern yourself about everybody. This is what a collective is. The Borg, yes, the communist society, the socialism that we're all going to be looking. Is all of us are created equal, but some are more equal than others, of course. But I find life hard. Mentally and physically and spiritually. And I look at other people you seem on the face of it to have an easy time. And I think, what is it that I'm doing wrong? What is it? Am I deluded? Am I mistaken thinking everybody has problems? Because I seem to have more problems than most people. But I don't have any debts. But perhaps they don't give a shit about their debts. Perhaps they just don't take them seriously. Their responsibilities, they shirk them. And this is it. You see, it seems to be that the more rebellious you are, get my teeth in, fortune favours the brave. It certainly doesn't. Fortune favours those who don't give a shit. But if you know, they don't give a shit, do they? They'll throw paper out the frigging car. They'll chuck stuff all over the street. They don't give a shit if their kids get inoculated. They're drinking shit out the taps. Yeah, well, hey Dave, his kids have got to have their jabs at school tomorrow. Yeah, and they feed them shit, and they dress them like shit, and they speak and treat to them like shit. These people don't care. And that doesn't take any effort then, does it? That's why they've got the energy to do the stupid things they do. That's where they get the spare money that they do scrounge in order to go and watch stupid bloody football matches. Watching 22 ultra-wealthy people kick a bag of air around so he can sit there having his cans of beer in his outfit, home and all away outfits, with his buddies travelling hundreds of miles at other people's expenses because he's on bloody benefits. But he's getting to do the things he wants to do. But there's plenty of things I can't do because I can't afford to do them. Because I'm too busy paying taxes to bastards like him to sit on his fat arse and go to football matches and get benefit after benefit after benefit. And he's making no attempt to make his life any better and start to pay his way in life. And it brings me back to the beach bums. I'm surrounded by beach bums in Britain that don't happen to be on a beach. They flood in our ethnic brethren, the ones with the melanin problem on their skin, do you know what I mean? The darker ones. They don't have any hassle, they have an easy life, man. Who are the idiots? I spent 50 years, I'm 57 years old, I spent 57 years being an idiot. Oh, if I only knew what I know now when I was 20 years old. Oh yes, I would play the system. Why the hell not? I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I blame us, people like us, who are stupid enough to allow it to happen. And the governments that allow it to happen. I would have every one of these shysters in the military, compulsory, for 5 years minimum national service. I don't give a shit about what religion, what their commitments are. They are going to give the United Kingdom 5 years of their life. And in that 5 years they will be squared up very quickly about why I don't own them or owe them a bloody living. I'm sick of the taxpayers being shafted up the ass by those who are on the take, from the poor end to the rich end. It's the middle class that are the target. I'm middle class. I ain't rich, but I ain't a scumbag. But the scumbags and the rich seem to have got it sussed, don't you think? Well, I've had enough of this crap. There's not a lot you can do, but you can just decide not to vote, because that only encourages them. No wonder the middle class have been perceived as such a threat to society, not just a threat to the rich, but a threat to the ultra poor. The ultra poor. These are the ultra poor who know every scam in the book about getting every conceivable available benefit they can wring out of the system that I bloody pay into, and they don't. I've got parasites on my left and parasites on my right. Royal family and oligarchs, bankers, and on that side, the tossers who just simply cannot be asked to go to work or set their own job up and get a bucket and a cloth and a pair of ladders and become bloody window cleaners. There's a job for everyone if everybody wants to be self-employed, and that's what I would insist on they do. If they can pick a piece of shit up off the floor, give them a black bag, send them down the motorways of our country in Great Britain to walk along the edge of motorways, picking up the bottles of piss that idiots throw out because they're stuck in traffic jams, and they fill Pepsi bottles and throw them out the bloody window, and I get stuck in a traffic jam in the car and I look out in the central reservation or on the hard shoulder. There's bottles and bottles of bloody crisp packets and bottles of piss that people have pissed in a bottle and thrown it out. And what happened to chain gangs in prison? If it's not the prisoners that are going to be doing the countryside clean-up, folks, why not get the dollies to do it? I could find somebody work for 40 hours a week. Oh, piece of piss. They should work for their benefits, folks, not go down the pub or go to watch the boys play home and away. They should have to go to work in the morning and clock on and clock off just as they were in a job, because they're getting paid on a daily basis. They should work on a daily basis. They should work for their dole money. They'd soon get a job, in a proper job, wouldn't they? But they need to break a habit of a lifetime and get up in the morning to an alarm clock, get dressed and go to bloody work like everybody else. I'm just sick of parasites. I'm surrounded by parasites. I got on that side and I got on that side. There seems to be no escape. Now you know why I'm pissed off and why I don't like parasites. Because it's never give, is it? It's never a give. It's always take, 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 take. From the poorest to the richest, nothing changes. Because do you know what they call them? David Icke's quite right. They're called opposames. Get what they can, how they can, by wicked means or not, any way they can, they stuff the middle. The middle class are in grave danger of extinction. And without a middle class, well, where would they turn? Have a think about that. We can't all be beach bums. And we can't go watch the match at everybody else's expense anymore. And stop blaming people for our situation in life. And realise, in the words of the fabulous poem, it's all a checkerboard of nights and days. It's a complete game. And the people are the pieces. And we'll all get put in a box out the way one day, won't we? It is all a checkerboard of nights and days. Take care. Catch you tomorrow.